Hey everybody, my name is Sam. I'm a peer leader with the CMHA, and today we're going to be working on a new group called Coping with Stress, and today's session is titled Understanding Stress, Triggers, and Contributing Factors. So you may be wondering, what is stress? Stress is a completely natural feeling of not being able to cope with specific demands and events. Stress can be chronic or acute, and some stress can be completely normal. So stress can also make you feel singled out at times. With a lot of stress can also come a lot of worry and the feelings of loneliness. So when you have these feelings of worry and loneliness, definitely can contribute to having that feeling of being singled out. And in our future sessions, we are going to work on some coping strategies, some techniques, and some overall wellness techniques to help you if you are feeling that way. So one of the things that I like to point out is that stress is different for everybody. Stress does not discriminate. It can affect young or old. It is not gender specific, and it can affect all types of professions. So some places that you can experience stress. So the next couple of slides, we're just going to go over some environments that you may experience stress in, some common environments. And then we're just going to go through a couple examples of what some of those stress triggers could be in those individual environments. So some of the places that you can experience stress, we're going to start off with the workplace. So stress in the workplace can affect any profession. All types of profession have varying levels of stress. They all have different factors that can contribute to different levels of stress, and that applies to any job that you possibly can have. You can be a nurse, you can be a fast food worker, an office job, you can have a retail job, maybe you're working in construction. So any job that you can have different levels of stress, and it also depends on who you are too. So some examples of maybe how stress can happen in the workplace. For our first example here, we have being told that your job isn't stressful by somebody who may be in a different position or maybe a different career. So I have definitely heard this before. I'm sure that a lot of people who are listening can probably relate by having somebody tell you, oh, well, you shouldn't complain about that because my job is way more stressful, or you have it easy because you're in this career. And I don't think that that's very fair, because what they're doing by telling you that your job isn't stressful is they're telling you that your feelings behind why you're stressed aren't valid. And if you feel that your job is stressful, regardless of what job you're in, if that is your feeling, then that means that your feeling is right and that needs to be validated. So another thing that can affect your job and the levels of stress in your job could be project setbacks, or maybe meeting set goals by the employer. So especially if you're in like a new position, or maybe you're new to the company, or maybe it's a slow time of the year for setting some of those goals, it can be stressful if you can't reach those goals for your employer. It's also a little bit stressful when project setbacks, if you have a project that you're working on, you're putting a lot of effort into it and it doesn't go to plan, it definitely can add some stress to your daily work life. Another couple examples here for some stress in the workplace would be if you have a first job or a new job and a change in position. So anytime that you start a new job, or maybe it's your first job, anytime that you're in a new position, there's not as much familiarity with that position and your duties that go along with that position. And when we take familiarity out of that equation, you can become stressed because you don't necessarily have the confidence behind what you're doing. And for some people, going right into a new job, they may be stressed out for a couple of days and they've got the hang of it. Some people, it may take a couple weeks to get the hang of it, and it definitely can vary by person to person. And also with a change in position, whether you're demoted or being promoted, a promotion, if it can actually be a really good thing. So promotions are a great thing. Maybe you get a raise or a new title. But positive things can also be stressful as well, because like I said, if you take out that familiarity of the position that you're already in, even if you are taking on maybe some new duties or you're going into a higher position, maybe you're going into management, it definitely can be stressful not knowing what's to come. And like I said before, though, that stress is definitely, it varies person by person, and it can also depend on how long it takes you to get comfortable with that role. So the next thing that can contribute to stress is family stress. So this can affect any family, regardless of income, number of children, background, where you live. Like I said before, stress does not discriminate. So some of the facts that we have here for family stress is that each age is unique to its own set of challenges that both parent and child has to work through. It definitely can be frustrating for young children who maybe can't fully communicate yet, and on the other end of that, it's also very stressful for parents sometimes not being able to understand what your child needs or wants because of that communication barrier. I think it's very important to focus on that communication barrier, because in some of our later sessions, we're going to come back and talk about that you may be able to manage the symptoms of stress, you may be able to cope with some of those symptoms, but in order to maintain the wellness, you have to be able to understand why you're having those symptoms. What's the root cause? Because we really want to focus on how to either lessen or eliminate that root cause of stress. Another thing that could contribute, as an example, in family stress could be that maybe you have some extended family. This can cause some pressure in some cases, like maybe you have somebody in your family, asking, when am I going to have grandbabies? This is a common question for a lot of young women in relationships, and it definitely can put a lot of stress on you, wondering, do I have to maybe start a family before I'm ready to, things like that. So there are a lot of questions that come up that definitely can contribute to personal stress. The last thing on the list here is family drama. I am sure that almost everybody listening has had some form of family drama happen, and it's definitely something that happens, and it can happen at any time. So what we're doing is moving on to student stress now, and student stress can affect anybody who's a student. Whether you're in college or university, high school or middle school, they all have different levels of stress, different types of stress, and different factors that contribute to that. So we're just going to run through some examples here. One of the examples that we have is high expectations or unrealistic expectations. And whether that's set by a parent or a friend or even the student themselves, having those really high or really unrealistic expectations can sometimes set you up for failure if you can't necessarily reach those. And when you fail at those, it may come back as more stress. One that's very, very stressful for students is bullying. And in today's world, I am very thankful that we have initiatives out there to help stop bullying in our schools and our community. But it is out there still. We can't fully stop it, unfortunately, and it is a factor that can lead into student stress. Another couple examples here, student stress could be maybe tests or exams. If you have projects due, especially multiple projects due at one time, and overall, just overworking yourself and not practicing self-care as a student. And for students, that could be for a lot of different reasons. Maybe as a student, you don't fully understand what practicing self-care means or is. Maybe it hasn't been introduced to you in the way that it should have been. And definitely having that overworking yourself without practicing those self-care techniques can definitely lead to burnout and can cause some severe and chronic stress symptoms. So now we're moving on to what's called household stress. And household stress can be caused by a lot of different things like scheduling, home repairs, organizing, cleaning. Anything that goes on in your house can cause household stress. some examples of household stress could be something as simple as saying, you know, have you ever felt like, man, I just cleaned the place and now it's messy again? I have definitely said this a couple of times, probably in the last week alone. It's very common, and you know, it definitely adds that level of stress to your daily routine and your daily schedule, because it's very tough to feel like you just did all of this work and you put all of this work in, and all of a sudden now it's unwound. Another factor for household stress, an example that could cause stress for some people, is that maybe you have company coming over. And when company comes over, for some people that could be very exciting, and for other people it could be very daunting. And you have company coming over, for some people it could be, you know, oh, I just got to do the last couple of dishes, do a quick tidy around the house, no big deal. For other people, they really need to put a lot of work into it, and you know, they may be stressed out because, man, I didn't have enough time to mop the floor, and I didn't have enough time to dust that lamp, and it all adds up. So it's definitely varying between person to person, and definitely what tasks you have to do. Another one that can be a big stressor for people would be house repairs, whether it's simple or extreme. An extreme example would be something like, you know, you came home and you saw that your toilet was leaking. That's an immediate repair. It needs to be done right away, and it's an extreme repair. So if you were to have that happen, you basically have two choices. Either you can fix it yourself, or you can hire somebody to fix it for you. And those both have a lot of questions that you have to ask that can lead to stress, because if you decide to fix it yourself, now you have to worry about things like, okay, well, do I have the parts to fix it? Do I have the knowledge to fix it? And do I have enough funds to go out and purchase the parts to do that work and that labor? But if you go the other route and say, okay, I need to have somebody come in and fix this for me, you need to understand if you have enough funds to hire that person. And you may be wondering, you know, who the heck do I call? So there's a lot of different questions that come into both, and then adding that sense of urgency onto it as an immediate fix, it definitely can raise those stress levels up. So one of the other factors for household stress would be scheduling. Some people need that schedule. It can be difficult sometimes, you know, if you're trying to balance appointments around work or school. If your doctor is only open for a few hours a day, it may be difficult to get that time off of work to plan around and get to that appointment. So it definitely can add a level of stress for some people. And also on top of that, if you don't have a daily routine, that can definitely cause a sense of not knowing mainly what you're doing. So it could cause some feelings of being overwhelmed if you have too much that's not written out. For some people, written out scheduling or daily routines don't work on paper. Some people just need to have them in their heads, and that's what works for them, and that's wonderful. But if you are somebody who needs to have it written out and you don't have it written out, that could cause a lot of confusion throughout the day, and definitely ultimately just contributing to that overall level of stress. So the next one that we're working on here is paperwork stress. And we all have paperwork to do at some point in our life. Some of the places that you can run into paperwork stress is maybe by filing your taxes. You have to ask questions like, okay, well, am I going to do my taxes, or am I going to find somebody else to do my taxes? Do I trust that person? How much do they cost? So there's a lot of factors that can go into taxes that can be stressful for some people. Some people, you know, they can just go ahead and do them, no problem, no big deal. Other people, it can be a lot of information that they have to fill out, and a lot of stuff to navigate. So another thing, another example for paperwork stress would be benefits. So maybe for some people, super easy peasy, they can file their claim, they can put it in, no big deal. They've done it a million times. For other people though, especially if you're new to benefits, so you've never had benefits before, maybe it's your first time using them, it definitely can be daunting because, you know, you don't want to get anything wrong on that paperwork. You're not familiar with the paperwork and you haven't done it as many times, so that could be a stressful thing for some people. Paperwork can be very stressful, but it definitely depends on who you are and how you react to paperwork. So another example would be forms or contracts, and that usually ties in with banks or facilities. So if you're going to the bank to create a new account, or maybe you're signing up for a gym membership, a lot of the time, you hear the stories of people saying that there's a lot of hidden details at the bottom of that contract that's really important to read. And for some people, they just sign away and no big deal. They're very happy with their membership. And other people, they have to read the whole thing to make sure that they understand the contract completely in order for them to feel confident in their decision to sign that paperwork. And another one that's really prevalent today is terms and conditions. And in an online world, I can guarantee that everybody who is watching this right now has signed some sort of terms and conditions. And the reason why I know that is because for any Facebook or any YouTube, anything that you have to sign up for today, usually has a terms and conditions checkbox. And these terms and conditions can sometimes be very long and very daunting. And it's very simple to just go through, scroll down, click I agree, and move on. But the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that it is technically a contract. It's legally binding, and for some people, that may be very scary to think that they're signing something that they don't fully understand. And by signing this, by clicking that box, you are doing what's called a online e-signature. So basically what that means is that technically you are signing that document, and for some people it's super easy. They can scroll through, no big deal, they won't ever worry about it again. And other people, they really need to spend some time to read through those, and that can be stressful because sometimes, it can take a couple of hours to read through some of the terms and conditions with how long they are. But definitely these are just some examples. These don't apply to all of them, they don't apply to everybody, but these are just a couple of examples that I could think of. So up next on our list here is financial stress, and financial stress is a really big one because for some people you may have a lot of financial stress and you may not have as much financial stress. You may not have any financial stress at some points in your life, and at other points you may have a lot. So it definitely varies, and I'm just going to go through a couple points now just to kind of show you guys what some of the things that could stress you out in a financial stress situation. So one of the things that could stress you out would be maybe having some past due bills, or asking yourself the question, can I pay rent this month? Worrying about if you can pay your car payment. Wondering, do I have enough gas money to get me to where I need to go pick up my kids or to go to the grocery store. And the last one here is really important, do I have enough money for food this month? And I would like to say that if you answered no to not having enough money for food this month, please reach out to either myself or to our peer team, and just send us an email and say, hey, I need some information on some of the community food banks, and we definitely can help you with that. So please don't feel like you are alone. If you find that you do not have enough money to feed yourself or your family, please reach out to one of us, and we will definitely try to get you connected with the best service that we can in the Oxford County. So our last point here that we're going to talk about is relationship stress. And relationship stress is a little different because there's a lot of ups and downs that can happen in relationships. It's definitely a big part of some people's lives. And this can also apply to friendships as well, but this time we're going to focus mainly on romantic relationships. So one of the things that in a romantic relationship that could cause some stress would be maybe having a new addition to the family. So whether you are having a baby with your partner or whether you're adopting, it definitely can be a trying time just because of the fact that there's so many questions that you have to ask. For some people it may be super super great. You know, maybe this is their second or third child. They feel really prepared, really ready. You know, they know everything that they need to know, and they're all sorted out. So that could be a low stress addition to the family. But maybe, you know, it's your first child, or maybe this is the first time that you're adopting with your partner, and you have to ask questions, you know, like, what am I going to do once it gets here? Do I have enough space in my household? Do I have to move? Do I have enough money in the bank for this? Or what do I need? How do I take care of this child? So there's definitely a lot of questions that go into play, and for some people can be very low stress. For some people, especially with that first new addition, can be very high stress. But it is a really joyful thing. So not all stress has to be bad things. Stress can definitely be from good things as well. And with stress surrounded by good things, knowing that when you get out of that stressful time, the thing that you get at the end of it is definitely well worth the stress that you experienced. And that's what it means to have, I guess you could say, good stress. It's definitely a level of stress that you experience for future benefit. So another thing that you could experience with a relationship or a partner is maybe it's time to decide if you need a new house, or maybe you're moving with your partner, maybe you're moving in with them, or you're finding a new home. That also warrants a lot of questions, like where are we going to live, which city, how much money is that going to entail, maybe we need to find new jobs for that area. There's a lot of different factors that go into that. As well as maybe you're, you know, with all of these decisions that come with a relationship and all of these discussions, you know, there's bound to be some arguments. There's going to be some times that maybe you guys are on some rocks. That's completely normal in a relationship, but it definitely can contribute to relationship stress for both parties. Another really good thing that can come out of relationship is maybe marriage. And marriage, once again, it's definitely a stressful thing, you know, asking yourself questions like funds, where it's going to be, when it's going to be, who's coming to the party or the reception. You know, that's definitely a conversation that you have with your partner, and there may be some disagreements, there may be some really good agreements, but definitely you need to find that balance. And we're going to be talking about this in some of our future sessions about how good stress, how having stress for a certain amount of time for the benefit of something that's good is actually healthy for you. The thing that you don't want to have happen is getting symptoms of stress that are reoccurring and don't go away after you've had the benefit of that short-term stress. So short-term stress for the benefit of good things in our life can be good. It is normal, but what we want to steer away from is having negative stress, stress that brings us down or causes us to have fears or anxieties, or maybe leads to some form of depression. So we want to stay away from that, and we will be talking about that definitely in more depth when we come back in some of our future sessions. And the last part here for relationship stress, just another example, is having some big decisions that both people take part in deciding in. You know, you may be used to having yourself as a single person who, you know what they want, they make the decision, and then they follow through. In a relationship, it's a little bit different because now you have two people who are deciding on the same thing. And sometimes if those people disagree, then you end up having a moment where, you know, if somebody disagrees, you may have a small argument, or maybe you guys talk it out and communicate and all is well. But it's definitely a different change, and like I said in one of our first slides, was that when something is new or when you have a lot of change happening, it definitely can contribute to that stress just because you don't know what's going on and you're not as comfortable with that decision. So I'd just like to challenge everybody to put down in the comments below, what is one positive thing in your life that may cause you stress? Maybe it's an upcoming birthday, and you know, maybe you're a little bit stressed out because you're not, you don't do too well in big crowds, but you also know that, well, this year, you know, I'm a little bit worried about seeing people, but I'm gonna do my best, and I know I'm gonna have a great time. So try to think of one thing that's positive in your life that may cause you stress. Definitely stay tuned for our future sessions. I would like to thank all of you guys for sitting through this session. I do know it's a little bit long today, at about 25 minutes, so definitely I'd like to thank you. If you would like to get in contact with myself, my name is Samantha, or our peer team leads. I definitely will link all of those emails and definitely our reach out line in the description above. So definitely thank you very much, guys, for listening, and I really hope to see you guys tune in for our next session. And once again, I'm going to be hanging out in the comments for about an hour or two after this. If you have any questions, feel free to comment them, and if you don't feel comfortable commenting publicly, please just send me an email or call my extension, and I will get back to you right away. Or as fast as I can. Like I said in my first video, I can't guarantee an immediate response. Sometimes it can take up to 1 or 2 days, but definitely keep in mind I will try my best to get back to you as soon as possible. And once again, thank you all for listening. Bye now.